Hello, this is Brian W6BY. There's a small but passionate subset of amateur radio operators who are interested in operating in the bands of above 2 meters and 440, typically called the microwave bands, including 1.2 gigahertz. These are very DIY types who like to build equipment from surplus parts or from scratch and head to mountaintops to see how far their signals can go. I wanted to share some construction information for amateur radio operators who want to get on the microwave bands. Amateur radio microwave operators typically use tripods for mounting their rigs. There are many options for tripods. Today I'm going to talk about which ones are suitable for amateur radio applications, as well as available heads and mounting arrangements. The environment you will operate in will often dictate the tripod you'll use. For example, if you're backpacking, a light tripod will be desirable, along with a light radio. On the other hand, if you're a mobile rover, something heavier might be more suitable. Or if you're a power operator with a big rig, you might want a heavy-duty tripod. Remember that sturdier tripods tend to be more expensive but more reliable and offer more options for mounting the rig. And remember, a complete transverter IF rig and dish can weigh between 10 to 40 pounds or more, so please plan accordingly. Here are a few examples of tripods, starting from cheapest to more expensive. On the bottom end, you might actually homebrew a wooden tripod. The one on the right was copied from a EMI testing antenna, commercially used. But this was easily made from parts you can get from Home Depot. It is not very strong. You have to attach your own mast, but if you're really on a tight budget, this might work for you. Something that's available at many hardware stores is a surveyor tripod. These are usually made of aluminum and plastic. They're fairly sturdy and not too expensive. The thing to watch out for these is that if you look in the picture, the legs have no way of preventing them from spraying out, so that if you apply a heavy load, it's possible that this tripod may collapse. One ham I know came up with a very novel approach for mounting his antenna. This is Dave, AF6KD, on top of Mount Diablo. He basically took a Black & Decker workbench type thing, and with C-clamps and some pipes mounted his dish and rig, and looks like a very comfortable operating position, including a spot for his coffee cup. But it's not a great setup for roving. Next on the low end are these light camera tripods that you'll find just about everywhere. They're made for very light duty, just SLR cameras. But this one in the picture has some supports in the middle to prevent the legs from splaying out. Make sure if you get one of these that you have that feature. Otherwise you may find your tripod collapsing. One thing you can do to prevent this from blowing over in the wind is to put a battery attached to the middle to help hold it down. On the high end of the consumer tripods is, for example, this one made by Bogen. It's a bit heavier than the previous ones. It has a fluid head, sturdy legs, and the supports in the middle. Although you still have to support it in the middle with a battery or something like that to prevent it from getting blown over in the wind. These typically sell for about $100 to $150. Moving into commercial tripods, Kwikset, for example, makes a Samson series of light-duty tripods for industrial use. These can handle up to 50 pounds, have a variety of heads, and are usually fairly light, so you have to be a little bit careful about knocking them over in the wind too. It does feature a telescoping inner tube that allows you to raise the level of the head without needing to extend the legs. Moving up in the industrial class of tripods is the Kwikset Hercules series. These are heavier, well-built, offer interchangeable heads, and are well suited for both roving and mountaintop duty because they're heavy enough to be stable and yet light enough to be loaded and unloaded during a typical contest operation. Finally, the heaviest industrial tripods are the Kwikset Gibraltar. These were made specifically for heavy-duty industrial use with payloads up to 400 pounds and are typically used in either broadcast operations or heavy-duty instrumentation applications. So as important as the tripod is the tripod head. The head will need to hold the antenna and transverter stable during high winds and also be easy to pan and tilt. Some tripod heads have geared elevation and azimuth mechanisms for more accurate pointing. And if you're equipped with a compass rose, it's very useful for accurate pointing and repeatability. Line up on something with a known heading and calibrate your compass rose to that heading. Most tripod manufacturers will have a variety of heads for different purposes. Here's a couple of examples of some light-duty heads specifically for the higher-end consumer-grade tripods. These have a shoe to mount the camera and for easy installation and removal, and also have a fluid mechanism so that dampens the movement of the head to keep whatever the payload is from flopping over. The Samson and Hercules heads usually have a more robust locking mechanism, sometimes have a compass rose, and for example, the one on the right has a geared mechanism for elevation. Some also have a geared mechanism for azimuth, so that you're more stable as you move your dish around. And the heaviest heads made for the Gibraltar series were made for typically broadcast use or industrial use for very, very heavy loads, up to 400 pounds. The one on the lower left has a compass rose. The one on the upper left has a shape that allows you to raise and lower the elevation without the payload flipping over. Finally, I mentioned that most good tripod heads have a slot for a shoe. If you're a rover, it could be a drag to mount and dismount your rig many times during an outing. And lining up the shoe can be frustrating while you're wrestling with that heavy rig in the wind. I devised a wedge system that self-aligns so the operator does not have to look at the tripod head when mounting and dismounting the rig. It slides on and then there's a latch to hold it in place. Mounting and dismounting takes just a few seconds. So that's the end of this presentation. Please comment and we'll see you on the air.